with the storage business. Yeah, so.
Is your office space back there?
It's all space in front of it.
I need a new office.
Yeah, this is all of them on first day.
I'd sell this to you. Use the back.
We might have a deal.
So.
Yeah, Jesus
Yeah.
tall as too.
Yeah.
And this is.
My landlord, my air conditioner's been off
Wait,
since
the
July.
bus come around the corner.
So, like, it's running, I mean, but like, it's basically consistent, like low 80s.
I just wanted a response. I called
Message.
the message.
But then I
All
started
of them
hearing,
going
and
on
it's
bus.
Brightspeed's phone company, and then I started hearing, like, my landlord and I have an issue with Brightspeed, and that's why I was calling this morning. Like, it's Brightspeed talking about the public meeting, I'm like, you know what? I don't hear how cheap the rent is, I'm like, I'm gonna get out.
Well, I've had to go to my AC unit at the room store for the last 2 weeks and grab the fan at the top and spin it as hard as I can to get it started. AC last week, so it's every day.
Just the big guy.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Set it up for the big guy.
So I think yours.
There's a delay, but
On.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Like when it breaks, they literally order a part on a slow.
We have to
motion
live
time.
stream now,
Yeah.
so
So,
it's
they
been
just say, it arrives when.
a pain.
They didn't have it with the purchase
Get it
order
going.
a couple years ago.
Technology never cooperates when you want it to.
Yeah, I could easily serve at least something aside for what I need to.
I might talk to you.
I don't need the office space, so.
I'm sure I'm gonna be right next to the vape shop.
Yeah.
Is LB coming, do we know, or Mike? Weird.
Excuse me?
LB or Mike, are they, either one of them coming, do we know?
I do not know.
Haven't heard.
I think it's time, so I just started the meeting, you've got your form, so.
Good. Is there an agenda for today?
Yes. I'll just help you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. Thanks, I totally didn't see those on there. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, let's call this meeting to order. Everybody's got a copy of the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting of June 2nd?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from June 2nd.
And I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Town attorney?
I believe we've got Baker Tilly here to give the TIF report today, so I'm gonna hand everything over to them.
Right. You just stand here if you guys, if that works for you. But yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Sam Schrader. I'm with Baker Tilly. We serve as the Redevelopment Commission and the town's municipal advisors. And so this has been this meeting traditionally has been held internally or handled internally by Jada, but we're helping still give the lay of the land TIF wise to Megan. This meeting serves as the annual requirement in which every redevelopment commission in the state needs to notify all the overlapping taxing units of this meeting to gather and get a summary of where the TIF currently stands. So we'll do that this evening. I came bearing gifts. You have a more detailed report for those that want to get into the weeds of the numbers. I'm just going to go over this brief presentation, but if you have any questions in the event that you do dig through those numbers, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and keep this as informal as possible. If you guys have questions along the way, please let me know. But this evening, we're going to talk a little bit about TIF mechanics, how it's captured, some terminology. We'll talk about some legislative updates that have impacted the capture of TIF for Bremen specifically and across the state. Then we'll talk about the state of Bremen's TIF areas specifically, and wrap up with some impacts TIF have on the overlapping taxing units. So with that, here on slide 3, this diagram here just helps outline the life of a TIF area. So at the time of establishing a TIF area, you guys would obviously select specific parcels where you anticipate new development to be generated. those parcels have an assessed value already associated with them that is going to the tax bases of all the overlapping taxing units, and that's unchanged throughout the life of the TIF area. That's what's considered the base assessed value. That's kind of our gray portion here on the chart. It's everything above that base assessed value that's actually captured by the Redevelopment Commission as assessed value that will in turn generate new TIF dollars. And obviously, you know, throughout the life of a TIF area, that's never as linear as we have it illustrated here, but the thought is, as revenues come in, they're continued to be reinvested in other development opportunities within your economic development area. That's our blue portion here of capture. And then you get to the expiration of the TIF area, and now not only the base assessed value, but any of that growth that's generated over the past, you know, 20 or 30 years is also going to go to the overlapping taxing units to their benefit to grow their tax base. So they do benefit from any, you know, increases in assessed value, although that benefit does become delayed in nature until the TIF area expires. This diagram here is essentially helpful to kind of define the layers, so to speak, of a redevelopment district. So imagine here that the boundaries of the town would be outlined in black. So within the boundaries of the town, which are coterminous with the redevelopment district, you can establish any economic development area. You can establish as many as you please. That's what we would consider here the red portion. It's within serving or benefiting the boundaries of that economic development area where those TIF dollars can be spent. However, the TIF dollars are actually generated in what are considered allocation areas, which again is now our orange portion here. So we've showed it layered just conceptually to kind of understand that there are different layers. A lot of times those boundaries of the economic development area and allocation area are coterminous, but you can also have several different allocation areas within an economic development area that again can all serve that economic development area as a whole. So hopefully that's a little bit helpful. And then slide 5 here. This kind of helps define the life of a TIF area. So statute has changed over the years defining what the life of a TIF area is. And you have several portions of your TIF area that kind of fit within these different criteria depending on when they were established. As it currently stands, anything that was established after July 1 of 2028, and that, you know, pertains to now, has a 25-year life, but that life doesn't start until revenues from that area are actually pledged towards a long-term debt obligation, so a bond or a lease or some kind of other financing mechanism. But you also have the opportunity, if you please, for whatever reason, to end an area prematurely whenever you know this body determines is fit for agreement. That'll kind of come in handy for some of the discussion later on with the different components of the Bremen TIF. Kind of brings us here to our legislative update section of the presentation, excuse me. So this kind of pertains to property taxes in general, not necessarily TIF, but that obviously impacts the capture of TIF. After this spring legislative session, there were significant changes to property taxes and deductions applied to 1% and 2% property. So as you can kind of see here, if we start with the 1% property, and that is defined by homestead properties, parcels. In 2025, those homestead parcels received a standard $48,000 deduction, and then in addition to that standard deduction, a supplemental deduction of 37.5% on top of the remaining assessed value after the standard deduction is applied. You can now see that starting in 2026, there's an adjustment in those deductions and amounts all the way until we get out to 2031, where the standard deduction is completely replaced by a supplemental deduction of 2/3 of a homeowner's property value. So you'll only be paying on, you know, 1/3 of the assessed value of your home. Additionally, all 2% property. So that's any rental residential property, apartments, long-term care facilities, agricultural land. Those are also now receiving a new deduction, which is, as long as I've been kind of working in this space, hasn't been a thing. So it has a large impact on certain communities, especially those with a lot of ag land, as you can imagine. That'll ramp up starting in 2026, all the way from 6% up to 1/3 of the assessed value of those properties. Now, I will say for Bremen specifically, and you can kind of see the amounts in the detailed report, your TIF areas aren't highly concentrated with 1% and 2% property, which is a positive thing. So it's not a significant impact. It is an impact that's stated in the report, but it's hitting a lot of other communities more significantly. And just to kind of add some context to what the residential component mean, because again, there's a lot of numbers here, right? We've included an example. So based on kind of doing some research on what the average value of a home is in Indiana, we're kind of basing these calculations off a home with the $240,000 assessed value. In 2025, you would be paying taxes on half of that assessed value, $120,000 to be exact. Whereas, after this deduction regime kind of runs its course to 2031, you'd only be paying on $80,000 of assessed value. So again, that kind of hopefully just puts some context to what these changes mean in terms of property tax revenues and collections. And it's not to say that Bremen will necessarily capture or collect a lot less revenue than they ever have before, but it's going to put pressure on other areas, specifically with the levy-based property tax system that we have in place. Usually as assessed values decrease, that puts upward pressure on tax rates to keep that levy or budget in a consistent or in an amount growing based on kind of the 4% maximum levy growth quotient that we're capped at in Indiana. So that's where you may see some other adjustments in terms of tax rates. That's enough of the kind of doom and gloom, so to speak. We'll talk specifically now about Bremen. The largest area that you all have capturing TIF is the Army Ditch Economic Development area and allocation area, which was originally established in 1989. It has since been established several different times, and thus, you have different portions of the area expiring at different times. So the main portion will expire in 2029, and the significance of that expiration is that's kind of simultaneously expiring with the outstanding 2012 bond that you have outstanding. That's 75% of the TIF revenues from a handful of specific parcels is going towards. So again, if you're kind of looking at our estimated tax increment here, we have some upward trends over the next several years. That's kind of explained through some outstanding property tax abatements, real and personal property that you have outstanding in the TIF area. Then you get to 2028 and you see that steep increase, which gets up to about $1.5 million. And these revenues are actually completely net of those bond payments that I just referred to. We'll talk more specifically about them on a future slide. But that's the reason for that slight increase. That's the explanation there is that bond expiring, but then internally the next year you see that decrease because the large portion of the area expires. And then some of the same happens, from 2030 where it drops down to around 700,000. You're going to additionally see some more of those abatements roll off annually and kind of work your way up a little bit over $1 million by 2037. When again another portion of your allocation area is going to expire. And then kind of starting at 2038 and on, you have the 2014 and 2024 expansion areas outstanding that don't have that expiration date quite set yet. Any questions on that? I'm throwing a ton of information at you guys. That's partially why I kind of included the charts. I'm a more visual person, so it makes it easier for me to digest and talk about. So hopefully that's helpful. All right, well, on slide 9 here, again, this is the outstanding bond that I alluded to. So in 2012, the Redevelopment Commission issued a bond in the amount of $2.484 million to help facilitate the construction of Coleman Cable and the Southwire Development, who was the purchaser of the bonds. There is a 75% pledge from, I think it's 4 or 5 specific parcels that make the payments on those bonds. So no matter what, on a semi-annual basis, we look at the actual property taxes paid, and no matter what, only 75% of what's been paid on those parcels as TIF goes towards the bond payment. If there's a shortfall in what was originally amortized, the town Redevelopment Commission is not on the hook to make up those shortfall payments. That bond will expire in February of 2029. And we noted here for 2025, there was about $174,000 of pledged revenues that will go towards those bond payments. Slide 10 here again. Obviously, at the time of issuing those bonds, there was an original amortization schedule. So we've illustrated that here with your blue bar graphs here. So you can see those payment amounts annually are kind of hovering right around $250,000. So that pledged revenue for 2025 is actually coming in short of that bond payment annually. But again, Town Redevelopment Commission not on the hook for any shortfall. There actually is additionally some remaining funds in the bond fund that's held with the trustee that facilitates those payments. So they use those payments to the extent, or those funds to the extent that they're necessary. But again, if there's ever a shortfall situation, the risk is completely on the developer as the purchase of those bonds, and not the Town or Redevelopment Commission. And honestly, the reason we've seen these revenues come in a little bit short, there's been actually some additional investment in the Southwire building recently, but there's also been additional abatements granted on that additional investment. So there's some mechanics that kind of impact the capture of personal property when there's existing property that's been depreciated, and then there's additional abatement that's granted. So again, we do anticipate over the next couple of years that we'll get back in the positive on that personal property and get closer to these bond payments, but that's pretty much why right now we're seeing those revenues come in a little bit short, even though there has been additional investment. Slide 11 here, this is kind of just a duplicate of the graph on page 8, but more closely splits the actual revenues between the non-Southwire property and the Southwire property. So as you can see, obviously in the early years, there's not a lot of non-Southwire property TIF revenue available because most of it's going towards those payments, but once those bonds mature, it's almost at a 50-50 clip here for the remaining life. But again, just kind of wanted to put some context to those revenues. Additionally, here on slide 12, we've noted that at the same time you expanded Army Ditch last year, you also created a new Yellow River residential allocation area, and we've kind of identified the properties are here outlined in yellow that are included there. So that was established to potentially capture some residential development that was expected out in that area. Again, no long-term debt or obligation has been pledged or have had those revenues pledged, so there's no expiration at this time. That brings us to impacts and relationships of TIF and overlapping taxing units. And I'll be brief with this, but I've used the phrase overlapping taxing units so many times in this presentation. You may not have known exactly what I meant, but what I meant was any taxing unit that has the boundaries that are kind of overlapping the boundaries of the TIF area. So that would be Marshall County, German Township, the town, obviously, Bremen School Corporation, Bremen Public Library, and then the Solid Waste Management District as well. You can see how all, 5 or 6 of those taxing units all contribute towards that total Bremen Town Taxing District, which is essentially what is used towards calculating the amount of TIF that's generated in the allocation area. And oftentimes we hear or get comments that TIF is taking away funds from other overlapping taxing units. Not to say we've heard that a lot in Bremen, but there is a test that's kind of set in place called the but-for test, which essentially states that if the TIF wasn't available to facilitate infrastructure or new projects to help the new development occur within the TIF area, then it couldn't be lost because it wouldn't otherwise have occurred. And so that's kind of what we typically use as the basis for stating that there really isn't revenue loss necessarily towards other taxing units. Again, there is actually a benefit that comes down the line from the additional assessed value that's released upon the TIF area expiring. But there's also so many ways that we see communities assist those taxing units through interlocal agreements and programs with schools, town infrastructure, you name it. So in addition to, the school has the referendum rate in place, that benefits from the additional assessed value from the TIF area immediately as well, as that portion of the TIF area, or portion of the taxing district can't be captured as TIF. So there are definitely ways that, the TIF is able to facilitate the needs of other overlapping taxing units in ways that, the Town and Redevelopment Commission find appropriate. With that, I left again our contact information. Matt Eckerly also from our team down in Indianapolis helps serve Bremen, and he served Bremen a lot longer than I have. But if you have any questions on the presentation or again the numbers in the report itself, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'd love to have that open dialogue with you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for Sam while he's here? Okay. That is all I have, so we'll move on to public comment.
Okay, public comments. Christina, would you like to go?
Yeah, I have, I think. You have one? Right, this is just kind of a general update, just a few items that we're going to need your guys' direction on. We've started the interviews, as some of you guys have attended different ones. We met with Collins Equity Group. They are interested in the Third Road property. We met with them on August 1st. No follow-up interviews scheduled at this point in time. They really only had the one product, and that was pretty much what we're looking at. Helix Group, there's a factory tour coming up, so we met with them on 7/29. They didn't have anything planned yet, but we just kind of got a feel for what their product was. So we scheduled up a tour. It's down in Indy, so that is on the 26th. Seven Diamond, I just today received an email stating that they were withdrawing their application. So for both properties. I did not, just got it at within 10 minutes before I left the house, so I have not had any follow-up at this point in time, but they are no longer interested. BM Builders, we were meeting on Friday. They did the B-Fit and some other things, trying to understand what they're interested in. They're more of a contractor, but still getting a feel for what they're interested in or how they could be interested in helping us. So we're taking an interview with them. Sloan Avenue Group, there's a correction needs to be made on this. I apologize. I must have copied and pasted, but that one is actually Monday the 25th at, what did I write down? Noon. So that one is actually the 25th in the noon. That's over in
Clarify if
Laporte.
anybody's attending, that one is noon in Laporte. That's noon Eastern, not noon, that's noon our time.
Noon our time, yes,
They
sorry.
They are an hour behind. No, it's just, I just want to make
Yes,
sure.
no. Noon our
Straight
time.
myself, yeah.
I know Tara sent out invites, so should have sent out invites, so, for that one already. Alan Edwin, just for the group's information, they would be interested in purchasing just a portion of the Third Road property. Wasn't setting up interviews, kind of just seeing what we were doing from there. If you guys would like to bring them in, they're more than willing to meet with us, but didn't see set up a point if that was not something you guys were interested in.
And then I think there are a couple others that may have interest Indianapolis-based. So if, when you're going to tour, if there's time for those to go visit, we've got one listed here, but there would be others that if you want to visit them, primarily apartments. Yeah, I think these are primarily apartments, not housing. So
there could be a potential couple other ones working in there to fill out the schedule. We're trying to wrap these up by the end of the month, and then I'd assume be another meeting.
I think we have to schedule another
Yeah.
meeting probably to have all those who attended to kind of give the pros and cons and ultimately decide if there's additional interviews, additional items needed. I think we're also sort of some references are being
Yep,
checked
I'm
for
gonna
those
collect
who are interested.
references. That's an item on my list, as of Friday, to go around and get references from all of these individuals. So that can be given to Keith to make calls.
So I think the idea would be to have an executive session. Keith and I, at least so far, have tried to reach out to some of the other places where, other communities where projects have gone forward with these folks, and just get an opinion of what each one is like to work with. So that's still ongoing, though that'll be ongoing for a while, because there's like 3 or 4 different people that Keith has to get in touch with every time. So we've had a few conversations, but not too many. So, but the idea would be to come back and share that information. People who've gone to the interviews share their impressions, and hopefully have a discussion as a larger group. So,
But I think just, I guess one of the questions is, with the ready process, ideally the commission would come to a conclusion on, picking the developers for various sites sometime in September timeframe. Not really a necessary rush to be into this month per se, or, first part of September could be toward the end. So if there's a desire to allow more time to see who else may be interested, we could do that. If there's some desire that, hey, we've kind of gotten the people we, that have the strongest interest and be responsive, and you can kind of close the process and be more, you kind of keep the time frame we originally had, which is the end of this month, trying to make a decision there. But that's just one of the questions that you guys have to, look at and get feedback on, because, since it's getting out more and more, there's potential, there's more and more people that are kind of like, hey, is it too late, or do we want to, do that? That's something that we wanted to explore with you all, of how firm in that timeline do you want to stick to, or do you are still open to more others come to the table? Because we thought we may be done by, next week, but we wanted to throw it out there to see what you guys' thoughts were.
The ready timeline was based on getting approval like months and months ago from the state, and that hasn't happened yet, so I assume that's gonna slide?
Yeah, so,
The whole timeline will slide?
Yeah, so that's a good time to update that. So the state paused all ready considerations through the legislative session, and then that extended, that's been unpaused. So we actually did get movement and submitted the follow-up budgets So IDC approved the project, they submit follow-up budgets, they're going back through a final approval through a consultant, head Ernst & Young, which is doing the economic analysis on it. But we expect to get a contract in September to be able to sign by the end of September. So it's been preliminary approved, it's just we submitted the reports today. It's just basically, what do you spend your money on? And then they're gonna come back with a contract that we can sign, and we have a draft contract, this boilerplate, already, but they'll come back with a formal one, and it's probably September, they said, and have it signed by the end of the month or first part of October, depending upon the RDA schedule.
And that would start the 2-year time, the 2-year clock on it?
The funds have to be expended by, they want it by August of 2028. We're gonna beat that because our funds are related to the trail primarily. The rest of the project, bringing the units online, you know, their deadline that they want to see is at by the end of 2028, but they're being flexible to say, hey, if you're started and you're going to complete it, that's more of an accounting, like, did we leverage the money? So if something's already in progress and it happens in 2029, the private investment, they're going to be okay with it because they know the time frame has slipped a little bit. But we don't have more time to actually spend the ready money. That has a window that they have set on it.
I guess I'm gonna just skip down to 3 real fast because it kind of falls in line. The next thing is we have not, the contract that we signed for, or you guys signed for, Troyer was only for the trail survey portion. So now we're getting to the point where to get the road constructed and get it, or the trail designed so we can construct it first thing in the spring, we need to kind of start that work here, starting hopefully sooner than later. We don't have a signed contract with the RDA. We do have the pre-agreements, and we're all working for that in good faith. So I guess the request is if you guys could ask to release that work. We know the contract's not signed yet. It would be a month, potential, month or 2 of work that you guys would potentially be on the hook off if something were to potentially go, but for this point in time, we really need to get moving on the trail design in order to meet that time frame.
And to be specific, you signed the contract, but it requires a notice to proceed from the town before you incur liability on the contract. And so I think the request is to actually issue that notice to proceed, provide authority to Tony or Keith to issue notice to proceed, to start the actual design. As Christina was mentioned, the intent was to complete the design yet this year so we could hit the bidding for the first project next year, which is a more competitive position to be in than trying to go out to bid in the springtime. So, to hit that timeline, we're probably 2 months beyond where we wanted to be globally, since it's supposed to start in June. But if we issue it effectively tomorrow with approval, then they can kind of catch up and try to get it out by the end of the year for bid.
Have you sent us, I haven't seen the preliminary approval documents you're talking about to know where we stand. I mean,
Keith, we sent out the contract. You saw the blank template
Seen the
that came out from Ready, huh?
seen the contract from the state.
From the state, the template contract came out and got sent out last week, as well as Doc
We could
2.
deliver
Right.
printed copies if.
Yeah, it's just a
Did someone
template.
deliver them to us? I didn't
They were
see.
delivered to Tony to review legally.
Okay.
It was just a boilerplate contract. It's not got any of our numbers or
You
figures in
can
it.
certainly circulate that to.
Yep, we can circle it. It's the same as, probably the exact same almost format as the trail one, because they're all through the state. They're basic generic templates for state funds.
But just so we're clear, we're gonna send this one, but they really need to wait.
Yeah, this is just this was just a, hey, here's the what you guys are gonna be getting, they fill in the blanks type of a deal, just in case there's any issues with the wording ahead of time.
And the other projects too, there are other projects in the region that got this as well. They basically released all of Region 2's projects that have been approved, the RRDA's projects have been approved. And there was a meeting, and Keith was there along with us, where they talked about the process, and I believe the exact words were, they don't see anything in our application that would prevent them going forward, getting us the actual contract.
I make a motion to give the right to proceed to the Troyer Group to complete the trail design.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. They're still awaiting feedback obviously from the public session.
Yes,
that we're
yes, just as
having
an
and
update on the trail or the
survey.
contract in general. We have a meeting next week, or this week, this week, 21st, is this week for our trail meeting? Or the public
Trail
one?
meetings this week.
Yeah, trail meetings
The
this
second.
week, advisory committee this week, that's what I was saying. The next week is the public committee, so the last public session, so they'll come back with their feedback and whatnot. The goal is to have a rough draft of the master trail plan by the end of the month, so that it can be sent out for review, and then there's a joint session going to be scheduled for the 22nd, was it? 21st, 22nd?
Of September?
Yeah, the
It's
same
the
day as the council, 22nd. So a joint session that's going to be forthcoming, that would be the parks, the RDC, and the council to go to present that plan. And then Tony will have the resolution for that to be adopted, because that's part of that contract as well.
And the open house is on the 26th here, right?
Mm-hmm.
That-
Yes.
Tuesday,
is that
yeah,
correct?
Tuesday the
Tuesday,
26th.
5?
5:30 to, was it 5?
5:30 to
5 to 7, 5 to 7? 5 to 7, I believe. You put it in hand.
5 to 7.
Let's brief update on that. The last item we have is the Brown property replat. We presented this a couple months ago. I now have the finalized drawings. Basically, it's the same lot lines that were discussed. Exactly the same, just giving that extra lot up here to the town, and then making it all one big lot, so it'll be easier going forward. So this will also be the same one as going to the school board, same plat. They'll be in their joint session, so their stuff and your stuff. So this will be going to the school board next meeting, is my understanding correct, for them to approve the replat as well. So yeah, so could have to have some minor changes at this point in time. None of your stuff's changing, and we're going to try and would like to approval on this replat. So those are the items that I had.
And I think you just need a signature.
Yeah, we'll just need a signature. I don't know if I think you guys kind of, I don't know if there's actually a motion to approve it. I don't know what that is,
I'd ask you
or.
to make a motion to approve it. I'm not sure we've done that up until this point, so. I don't think we did, so I'd rather just do it.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the replat of the Brown property?
I motion to approve the replat of the Brown property.
Okay. Do we have a
I'll
second?
second it.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
All right, I'll get your signature at the end if that's okay. And Tony, you didn't by chance bring an application. We might have to have you stop in here and sign the application when we get that
I
back.
think I have a blank one actually in my bag.
Do you? So if
see
you do.
Before you leave, I've got one. You can probably sign if we can fill in everything else.
Okay.
And I guess before concluding that, I know that we were talking a little bit about kind of guidance, we kind of skipped into approvals, but I guess general feedback is the desire to go ahead and see who else may kind of have interest and try to keep interviews going, or is it more of, hey, let's just narrow down with what we got so far and move forward with that? I mean, we're kind of going to the holidays here, but we probably then have to have some of the additional interviews, if you will, right after Labor Day, if we're going to still chase something in September. So
You think there's additional interest that at least, has anybody formally made that?
there's been one firm that has called and basically through an initial interview, I said, hey, we're kind of down a path here, but I would ask if there was time. Could be someone those who are going down to an absolute interview, kind of loosely down there and see if preliminary if there's enough mutual interest. If so, then they would develop a plan and come back. But through that process, there's a couple others that are now kind of thinking about it, right? So we just didn't know, all these that have so far additional are out of Indianapolis. So again, that's a different, group of apartment developers and whatnot. So then who have been locally here. And I'm not sure, if that's again desirable to keep the process extended and to see what else is interested in.
it's,
I think you talk to as many people as you can talk to.
I would agree. I think it's smart to, people are still willing to come to the table. I think it's,
Okay.
Conversation never hurt, but absolutely.
seeing people drop off, what would you put the odds at right now that you're gonna be able to come up with the $18 million of private investment?
Or the 135 units and whatnot. Well, there are a couple here that are really excited about it. So I think, whether or not the town's excited, I think that's part of the discussion, but there are a couple here that, have submitted additional items for it. And so I think you at least have some that are willing to start building, and accelerating that. But I do think that if there's other people who are coming to the table, then it's worth looking at just to see the different products, different types, different feel. Ultimately, I think the decision that the Redevelopment Commission made was to pick a developer to ultimately work with, so on each parcel, and not necessarily have all the I's dotted and T's crossed, but someone you feel comfortable working with to get to a conclusion that you think would give you a product that you want.
So our input would, on what and how comes later, the board's input on.
Yeah, you're basically picking like, okay, for this property, we think this is a good developer for this site. For this property, we think this is a good developer for this site. Based upon our conversations, willing to meet with, hear our concerns, understand what we want, or just the product they have fits perfectly with what you want. So I think that's the discussion in the field that the interviews have been about. And so once you get to that point, then you negotiate a term sheet with that developer, get to an agreement with that developer, and then they can do significant engineering. Right, and they feel comfortable that they're not spending a lot of money, that you're shopping the deal still. They have basically an exclusive right for a period of time to work through all the details and see if they can, deliver a mutually agreeable solution.
Sean, it seems like though there may be a decision now to make earlier on, whether you're going to go with one developer that does an entire parcel, and I'm really talking about, I guess, the Third Road area, or if we've got some additional people inquiring from the Indianapolis area that only want to do a certain type of development. But you've got Edwin Allen, like you could pick smaller groups to do different parts instead of one global development. It seems like we're actually approaching that as a possibility now.
Yeah, I think that sometimes what happens in these discussions is you've got one developer that specializes in a particular product. Let's say it's apartments, and they go and they bring along, several options that they have worked with who do the single-family homes, and vice versa, right? So the question is, who's the primary developer, and who are they subletting out? To your point, Tony, one could say, I just want to do this piece, and they don't want to do it in a different type of piece, and then you may be kind of splitting things up, or they may not need as much land to get the units because they have a dense product. So there is a little bit of play in there too, where they may say, I only need 40 acres, I don't need a whole thing. And in which case maybe it's a phase 2, maybe it stays as farming, maybe it stays whatever for that period of time. So yeah, I think that's right. And I think to the point before, some may say, well, I don't want to I want a certain level of mass in a community, so I'll do the James Park area, and I'll put some apartments out here, but I won't need to put so many down at one spot where it's too dense, and they split it, but then they do the residential too. So there's a little bit of play in here. Everyone's a little bit different, the product set. That's why you see some kind of dropping off and some coming on. Like, you guys may have enough if you think about it all that we're interested. So.
Well, what I hear you getting at, Tony, is potentially, for Third Road especially, you could have 2 or 3 different developers developing 20, 30, 40 acres at a time, so on and so forth.
Edwin Allen is on this list. We had met with them last fall. They sent in a letter, I think, to support the application, but they said they only wanted to purchase a portion for single-family for-sale units.
Yeah.
But so we kind of said, let's do that last to see if exactly the situation came up.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling we'll end up meeting with them again.
And I have a feeling you'll see some other smaller players want to do 10, 15 single-family dwellings also.
It could be,
So.
but that would be essentially a course of action that you guys would have to say, let's go this route. And it's, I guess, think it's good that we'll be able to show you both. You know, there's at least one other developer on that list who would be like, we'll do the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, and you just kind of have to make a decision at that point on what direction you want to take it in.
And I think that it's also a mix of product set. So there's, you know, one of the lists has a kind of a condo project, you know, even though it's single family homes or condo. Well, if they don't need all the land, then you could easily have next door one that does do a traditional where you have backyards and more things. It's not
Yeah.
as scripted. So you could see, depending upon what the uses are, depending upon the mix, that there's a market for both to some degree, and maybe they can go alongside, or one's delayed a couple of years or the other to make it work. So I do think there's a mix that could happen, particularly if now the property is being used.
There can be saturation though, they're not gonna be, you know, like single-family homes, you're gonna have 4 people all building single-family homes because they may not own.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be
That piece
staged.
of that too, this kind of.
So, anyway, that's the global update there.
So I'll try and get in as many interviews as I can by the end of the month and spill over into the next week and then try and wrap them up, hopefully though, after that first week. So we can kind of have time to get any follow-up interviews back.
If we can do whatever we're gonna do in the Indianapolis area in one day, that would be.
I know, ideal
would
for
love to not
everybody.
have to go down
Right,
again.
we're gonna try.
So,
The school may have some counter proposals for your MOU, but we would have to have some meetings on it.
But yeah, I think that's fine. I think at this point, it's
You guys are
still.
still open to talking?
Oh,
about it?
absolutely.
Okay.
I don't see why not. Yeah, it's just a draft to get us moving forward, so.
That's all we
Thank you.
have.
Okay.
Any other public comments? Keith, do you have anything?
So you guys have enough on your plate, but I will throw out the thought that we try to get you guys, let's pick that magic day of the month for the regular meeting day. If we can get that done, it would be amazing. Tara would love it as far as organizing meetings. If you guys could put your heads together and pick that certain day and time, that if we didn't have anything going on, we'd let you know a week out for business. But that would be amazing as far as scheduling goes. Give that some thought, please. And we're trying to encourage the other commissions and boards to do that as well.
I think we'd give you, this is the third Monday, and I think we'd give you first dibs on third Monday if you wanted it. So, for what
How's your
it's
third
worth.
Monday look? Everybody?
How's your third Monday for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah. I see I'm signed on here longer than anybody, so yeah.
Look at your calendar for the next couple of years. Okay. All right, we can talk about that. See if that-
Yeah.
I think we need to have more than 3 of us here to make that
Maybe I'll
decision.
have Tara throw out those doodle.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to do it.
Okay.
Let everybody comment, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. It's the end of the agenda.
Just,
Anything else?
Chief Nair is putting together specs on a fire truck. So expect that before the end of the year, that he's gonna come in and make a pitch, so. Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I second that.
all right. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. Thank you.
No. Well, actually, I think
All right, Joe. You wanna come over here and see? I do.
Big share.